I don't want to bash other content creators, but here's what's wrong with the way they're explaining masculine presence. I brought my real life partner on here, Andrew Bauer, because I think he has a really great way of explaining it. And we got so many comments from you guys of this type of explanation resonating, maybe more so than what is usually on YouTube. So I'm really excited to dive into this content again, and we're going to be doing a live on Saturday, so hopefully you guys can join us for that. The members get Q&A in that live, so we would love to join you there. But Andrew, I'm really curious what your thoughts are, because this is something that you were feverishly taking notes on when we were talking about it.
I wrote a bunch of notes because I'm so passionate about this, and I've been in the same situation where I'm looking at all this other YouTube content and what other people are saying around presence, and was trying to apply it myself. So let me read the first couple of notes. A lot of presence videos go into what a present man does and looks like. Now, these are outlooks and aren't actually helpful for embodiment. You're left trying to mimic something instead of embodying it. So in order to embody a state that shows up as present, we need an experience that we can embody, one that we can come from as a position.
So you're saying that there's a difference between what presence looks like and what you're doing that creates that
Yes.
Essence.
That experience.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
So what I eventually noticed was this is going to be kind of stating the obvious, in the sense that what I see outside myself and what's happening inside are two very different things. But when I really stopped to look at that, I noticed that all the content, everything was around, this is what a present man does. This is how he is. And it all was outlook based, and that had nothing I could apply inside in order to recognize what shows up outside. So then we're back to the, what's that saying? Fold in the cheese from Schitt's Creek, one of our favorites. So that always annoyed me. And then I went looking for a personal experience, one that I could embody, that when I talk about embody, I work out how to bring this state around and that I can come from it and sit in it as a position. Okay. And I found one that's been really simple to apply for myself, and that we're starting to get some really great results with our clients as well.
Ooh, do you want to share that one?
Yes.
Okay.
So I've got two analogies that go for this. Well, first up, I'm going to say what it is, and then I'll go into the analogies. So when we are present, we are holding space. And again, that doesn't really mean anything, but more to the point, we are perceiving space. And this is where these analogies come in. So one is when we drive a car, and the other one is, say, skiing or snowboarding, or even dancing can have this as well. So I use car and snowboarding. When we first learn to drive a car, we see all these separate things. And all the other cars on the road are the traffic that we have to make sure that we try to maneuver through. We're following the road rules, we're doing all the techniques, all the skills that we've learned to drive the car, and as we're driving along, we're just watching multiple different things of traffic at once. As we're driving as well, we get this whole start-stop experience. And eventually someone tells us to stop looking at the back end of the car in front of us, but rather to look 3 car lengths ahead. And what they're doing when they do this is they're telling us how to perceive space within driving. And therefore we now set a reference point, which is 3 car lengths ahead. And that reference point sets our awareness to be the space that we're driving within. And then as we start to drive with that 3 car lengths ahead approach, our perception starts to shift. It starts from seeing all these other things as obstacles to this space that we're navigating and operating in. And all of a sudden we recognize that we are part of traffic, and that the space we're operating in starts to naturally fall into place, that it becomes a lens. And therefore we can apply that lens as we're going along. So now we don't think about driving, we perceive from it. We put the lens in place, and then we act out in our mind what it would be like if we were driving from that.
Interesting. So this kind of reminds me of the the perpetual preparation trap video that we did.
Absolutely.
Like the skills, seeing all the skills as seeing all the cars, kind of two-dimensionally seeing all of these things that you're reacting to and not necessarily seeing how to embody the entirety of how they fit together. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's use snowboarding as an example for that one. When we learn to snowboard, there's these different skills to stay up on the board and to maneuver as we're going along. And we may be able to get reasonably good at it, but then all of a sudden everybody else is coming at us and we're having to dodge stuff. And again, we get told, don't look at the trees, look at the path. So again, we're back to looking at space, because to look at the path, we have to see the space between the trees. So therefore now we need to see the trees and the space between them. And as we do that, our whole perceptual awareness starts to pick up the space that we're navigating and operating within. And then all of a sudden we've got everybody else maneuvering within the space with us, and we then get to practice those skills while perceiving space.
Ooh. I love this. That's a really great analogy of how this all fits in. Because I know as the feminine, I can tell when a man is present and when he's not. It's a like sense that just as the feminine that you can pick up on. When you're saying holding space, because I think that's another really commonly used fold in the cheese kind of not helpful ask from women. Is there a way that when a woman's asking for space to be held or just hold space for me, how is that either different than presence, or can you distinguish that from what you're explaining presence to be in terms of seeing the space?
Okay. We need to have our awareness shift from separateness to a form of unity. And let's call it a unified field or a unified space. Okay. And this is a perceptual shift of awareness that happens. And some people talk about it as in being able to own the room. And what I suspect the meaning by that is they're actually perceiving the whole room. So similar to when we're driving, so imagine we're driving and we have other people in the car that are talking to us. We are both present with the road and with the conversation because we have automatically set our focal point as being the 3 car lengths ahead. So now we are perceiving traffic, and more to the point, our visceral system has taken over being able to do that, which is why we're able to drive mostly unconscious. And the visceral sides of our systems are just monitoring everything, and our body is just naturally doing it and operating the car as if it's an extension of ourselves. So therefore, we're holding a space within traffic, but also our awareness is within the car at the same time. And we're cognitively a part of the conversation. So therefore, cognition is starting to follow this conversation, and we're a part of it, and we have unity between cognition and visceralness. Now, at one point in time while we're driving, there may be something that happens on the road, and our cognition has to go in and focus in on that. So all of a sudden, this car space is left to itself while we're doing that. And everybody in the car will be able to feel it because our visceral senses will kick in and have this tension in our body, and as we're going to react or respond. So because of the empathetic nature within our nervous system, they're able to feel that just as much as we are. They might not be aware of what it is, but they can feel it. So therefore the conversation will all of a sudden hold its own realms for a minute, and then once we're through that and we start to relax back down, we can come back into the thread of the conversation and keep going. Now, how this applies within what you're talking about with a woman that wants to hold space and for a man to be present with them, I want you to imagine that instead of being able to naturally sit within that space of driving, they're not aware of how tense they are, because their cognitive and visceral systems aren't integrated. So they're having to use more cognition to drive, because to hold that realm requires more cognitive awareness in order to drive. So now they're agitated and she's picking up on it and she's becoming more agitated, and then there's this backwards and forwards of agitation which adds more to him. And she's like, is everything okay? And he's snapping, going, yes, it's fine, just leave it alone. And
this is making me stressed just thinking about it.
And yeah, she's feeling very unsafe.
Yeah.
Or here's one that goes the other way, because sometimes you like to hear it not just from the man's side but from the woman's side. Imagine she gets in the car and she's like, every time that something comes around, he's like, what was that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this type of visceral experience is what prevents us from being able to be present with each other. So she too must have integration between the cognitive and visceral systems and sides of himself. And we probably should look into this in a sec, but I want to finish what you're talking about. We need to make sure we are integrating those.
I'm glad that you framed it from the typical man's perspective. If she's jumpy, or it doesn't matter gender, but if the other person is jumpy and you're constantly like picking up on that, because I think that's a really important one. Because I know, especially when I have conversations with women and they're asking a man to be present, what they are experiencing on an emotional level is often similar to that. If I'm sharing something with you, and I think you do a really good job at this, but if I'm sharing something with you and you're emotionally reactive in that domain, something around touchy subjects for couples, or like sex and finances and your parents, things that are like typical hot buttons for couples, if those are areas where you're constantly like jumpy or agitated, it's going to be really difficult for her to have that kind of conversation in a way that feels like smooth driving, because there's always going to be this like impulse coming that is needing to be discussed as well. So I think being able to, like you were saying, see what's happening and at least both be on the same page. If she is jumpy for some reason, at least understanding like, oh, she was in a car wreck and now when she sees cars for the next couple months, it's probably going to be a little agitating for her, something like that. So that you can at least be accounting for that and empathize with that.
Yeah, and understanding, for instance, use parents as an example, that anyone's going to be on edge when they meet someone's parents. And it's not necessarily that there's anything wrong with the parents, it's just oh no, I'm now going to meet someone and are they going to judge me? And everyone's got that. So these are things to be mindful of. And I think we even had this analogy in the one around women's safety, but I'll use it again. So with the whole women want emotional safety, what they're looking for is that visceral, the visceral senses to be in alignment with what they're cognitively experiencing. Because when they're out, she doesn't feel safe. So as an example, so you can experience this for yourself and to think and consider it through, imagine you jumped into a car with someone you met and you got along with them, they were a great guy. And he was driving, but he was that agitated driver. And you're asking, everything all right? Yeah, everything's fine. Or the other one is, there's no problem. What do you want about? All of a sudden you're left having this experience of them being agitated and you're not wanting to get in the car with them because they're either dismissing you or it's... I don't like to use the term gaslighting, but it's kind of blanketing over as if there's nothing wrong and it's all in your sides of things. And you have this experience of agitation because they're agitated. So here she is coming in, having this analogy, if you take it now into real life, here she is coming in and seeing this side of you and wanting to interact with it, but then there's something off in the visceral piece and she's trying to work out what it is. And it may be even questioning that it is her and going, okay, maybe it is me. Maybe he is right that I'm anxious and nervous and that's making him anxious and nervous. So having to sit with herself and work that out. So by us actually starting to be mindful of that there is another side of us. And if we are consistently getting feedback from life that there is something going on, then it's probably in that visceral sides of things, and we've worked out how to suppress it. And because we're suppressing these visceral elements, we're not experiencing what's coming up for them.
I love that. Part of it, I think, is being able to kind of zoom in on what your the feedback that you're getting, really actually like assess, is this something that I need to look at, and be able to zoom in on that and unpack that in a way that allows that to unwind, instead of shining a magnifying glass on it and making it more like you need to hide it. That usually, I think, is where people go, I won't say wrong, but that is a wrong turn that I see a lot of people making, is not either engaging the visceral system, and they're just kind of like cognitively thinking things through and wondering why this isn't working, when the reality is that for most women, they are going to be more presently perceiving data from the visceral system. So, because
if we look at masculine and feminine, the cognitive sides is masculine, the visceral sides is feminine. So cognitive sides have directionality and the different realms of thinking things through. The visceral sides is more intuition. Now, obviously, we have both. It's just that men have an affinity, as in they rely more on the cognitive sides. Women have more of an affinity, as in they rely more on the visceral sides. And we both rely on both of them. For instance, to be able to drive properly, you need the visceral system. So there's that cognitive and visceral happening at the same time. Now, there's also a lot of analogies that are used around masculine focus and awareness is like we've even used these analogies ourselves, is like a flashlight or a torch, and women's is more like a lantern. So if you now have a look at the visceral sides of things, that is that lantern, consistent awareness happening as a stream coming through us. Then the cognitive one is more of a focused piece. Now, from that cognitive perspective, we can find diffuse it out enough that the visceral starts to work with it. And there's times where it needs to be honed in, and that the visceral needs to be honed in at the same time. But that requires holding tension in order to do it. So if you're doing really fine-grained work, you'll be able to hone in your cognitive elements, but then you would have to use those sensory pieces to do it, and therefore you're holding a level of tension because you're getting the visceral to ignore a bunch of things.
I was trying to think of an example of that in real life. Do you have an example?
It's usually like, imagine you're sitting there and doing some fine-grained painting on a figure or something like that. Like, I don't know if guys are doing like Warhammer or something, but it's irrelevant. Think of like a fine-grained craft. You've got high focus on what you're doing, and you're putting all your senses to that, which means you need the environment to be safe. And all of a sudden, if it's something over here grabbing your attention all the time, then it's jarring and jerking out, and it doesn't feel good. So there's a lot of focus that's required to do that. So I want you to imagine now that the women's focus is vast generally. So her awareness is always everything all the time, all at once. And she's wanting to focus her attention down, so therefore she's pulling that in and wanting to stay present with you when it wants to naturally be with everything. So this is why holding space allows her to relax into that, because then she can allow her awareness to sit within that space and not have to worry so much about outside of that, because she's aware that you have it.
I'm so glad that you went there, because it is a really relaxing experience to be across from a man who is present and is able to or willing to hold space. There's a like depth of relaxation that gets to sink into the feminine nervous system, that allows her heart space to open, her even creative and intellectual capacities to come forward more, because she's not having to use all of that, I'm going to say like masculine energy awareness to be constantly monitoring what's around her. She can be more present with you. And I like that you explained too that the masculine is more, has the affinity to the cognitive side of things, because if you're wanting for her to be present with you and connect on a cognitive level, you actually also have to be willing to do the same, to take into account that she, being probably more viscerally attuned, needs a certain level of safety in order to go there with you too. Is that fair to say?
It is, and it's also why women love having vibrant rooms. So when she's in a room that actually feels good, it means that she can relax her awareness into the room and let the room hold her. And when there's stuff in the room, then it's agitating and grabbing her attention. And even Alison Armstrong talks about it as the things talk to me.
It's noisy.
So it's not as if there's voices in my head. No, the things over there are grabbing my attention and keeping me from being right here, right now.
Yeah. I love that. I do love too that we always talk about, because obviously everyone has masculine and feminine energy. Everyone is capable of visceral and cognitive. And honestly, the more integrated that both of those things are, the more successful you're going to be at navigating most situations. I think that's kind of a fair blanket statement.
Yeah, let's talk more about leans towards.
Yeah. Go for
It's
it.
probably a better way to, literally that, in that men lean more towards the cognitive sides, women lean more towards the visceral sides, just in their whole makeup. And this is why men are able to shut off the visceral even more, because we just lean harder.
Yeah. So part of this, when you're thinking about being present, especially with a woman, is allowing yourself to sink back into, and I'm going to get you to translate this for me, but to sink back into your body in the moment, so that she can allow her body to soften with you and create that connection that you're actually looking for.
All right, well, let's talk about, to answer that, let's talk about it from a different angle. Let's talk about what prevents you from being able to go there.
Let's go there.
So what happens when we're sitting with and working with the visceral and the cognitive system at the same time is we conceptualize things into meaning. It's a mental shortcut, let's put it that way. And this is where, can you pass me that for a sec? This, for example, we turn around and say it's a water bottle. So now you know how to use it. If you know how to use a water bottle, you cognitively have worked out water bottle. And for instance, a chair. The thing itself, the concept, is a mental construct that we project over reality in order to shortcut knowing how to use things. Because then if I turn around and told you that someone was eating dinner directly off the seat of a chair, your stomach would churn. You would be like, what are they doing? And it's because of all this meaning that gets tied up into it. There's the distinctions of how to use a chair. There is how to actually observe a chair and to see what it is. And then there is all the visceral feelings that go with it, telling us what's right and wrong when it comes to operating with it. So it's this meaning making that gives us shortcuts. Now the problem is that if because our senses are pulling in so much information very quickly, the whole visceral cognitive system uses these shortcuts in order to move quickly. And when we're actually having concepts or meanings that aren't actually in alignment with the dynamics of where we're currently operating, then we will have misfires. Our visceral system will start to misfire, or our cognitive system will start to misinterpret. And it is these two elements that keeps us from being present and to be with the dynamic. Because now we have to slow everything down into objects and have to work with individual things at a time in order to understand what to do. And we lose track of that whole space. So now we're not perceiving the space, and therefore we're not being in it. And all we're doing is being within ourselves. And if there's certain sensations that we've learnt to not accept, to learn that they're a negative thing, then all of a sudden we don't want to go there with those sensations. So now we have to bring our awareness further up and shut it off, suppress it, numb it, project it onto others, or find other things so that we don't feel it anymore. And a really good example of what I mean by this, and this is a misinterpretation. A really good example of this is I was watching a video that Simon Sinek did once, and he said he was watching the Olympics, and he thought it was interesting that all the reporters without fail would say, "Are you nervous?" And all the Olympians without fail would say, "No, I'm excited." And he looked through the sensations. They were exactly the same sensations: anticipation of the future, increased heart rate, sweats and chills, tingling and your hair standing up. The only difference he could find was that one was an anticipation of a negative outcome, the other was an anticipation of a positive outcome. So now we're having this type of sensation come through that we're associating with nervous. And now we've got all the responses that go with nervous.
Cognitively.
No, cognitively and viscerally.
Okay.
Because now we've associated that whole experience as being nervous. So now we react and respond to it in a way that shows nervousness. Whereas when we're able to let that go for a moment and open to the possibility that it may not be nervousness, that it actually might be excitement, and that somewhere along the lines when we went to automatically act with excitement, someone somewhere's gone, "No, don't do that," and all of a sudden we're like, "Oh, okay, I don't know what's going on." So that sensation now gets marked as potentially dangerous. And then forever on, that sensation comes up, "Oh, that's danger." And when we're able to actually sit with it and realize that that type of, let's call it an imprint, was probably imprinted indiscriminately. That in a certain situation, it may have been very appropriate to say, "Oh, hang on." Like, for instance, as a child, you go to run out on the road because you're all excited. And then your parents are like, "Don't do that." And all of a sudden you're like, and now you've associated that sensation as something wrong. And off you go. Now, you may eventually learn out of that, and now you're good, and you may not. Now, there's a whole bunch of these that we all have that pull us out of the moment. And it is these cognitive shortcuts, or cognitive visceral, let's call them perceptual shortcuts, that are pulling us out and having us have reactions, and they might even be micro reactions, but because of the empathetic nature of our nervous system, others are experiencing it. And because of these happening, we have to, we can't have it keep triggering. So then we learn how to not feel them anymore. And this is where we stop becoming even more present, so we're holding less space, as in our perceptions are less, usually somewhere around the head. And, or I think others might actually be more down here and not the head as well. Like, there's different areas, but the one I used to get told all the time is in your head, so therefore my perception was around here. Now, how where were we going with this? This was around, your question was around the space holding, and that's right, I was saying what takes us out of it. These, what was the term I put? Distorted imprints are the things that take us out of it. And what we now need to do is work out how to dissolve those distorted imprints, and how to create ones that are actually more in alignment with the situations, the scenarios, and the circumstances that we're operating within, instead of having these discriminate ones.
So it's kind of that like misfiring of the visceral cues or the misreading of the interpretation of what that means. That disconnect is what's keeping people from being present, which is what she's asking for.
Now, we're starting to get, as we're doing this, we're taking our awareness smaller and smaller, and we're just having real quick reads and making things mean stuff quicker and quicker. And that meaning may be off because there's probably nuance that we're not feeling anymore since we've gone further and further out of the visceral sides of things. And what's then needed is to be walked back in to the visceral sides and to allow these things to start coming up so that we can experience them for the fullness of what they are as sensations, and then start to unravel our meanings that we've applied and work out what do they truly mean.
Can you give an example of what your experience was like when you were starting to learn this? How you started to walk yourself, or did someone walk you back into more of the visceral space?
I've found that my system is high precision, might be like a high tuned one, so that it can create real deep visceral experiences and pick up real deep visceral stuff. So when I start to walk into this, it would actually cause reactions in other people that didn't have the capacity to be with those deeper experiences too. So for my sides of things, I actually had to how do I put it? I went to a lot of different courses myself, and there were the ones that were just skill-based, and then there were the transformative ones, which were more based on distinctions and deeper nuances. So a lot of those transformative ones helped bring out levels of awareness that allowed me to go, there's something else here.
The things you can't unsee.
Yes.
Nothing looks the same after that.
So the revelatory distinction, where the thing we can't unsee, so therefore now we have to integrate around this nuance that we now perceive. So that awareness had me start to want to feel more into this visceral sides. But what it meant was that I had to work out how to be with these sensations, and that thing, like what Simon Sinek said, had me be aware that maybe there's more to this. Maybe that's the case with a lot of these experiences that I'm having, that I'm picking up that there's a wrongness when there isn't, and I'm just misappropriating. So I had to just be with them and learn how to do somatic work. So yeah, let's put it this way. If you ever white knuckle it, where you're holding on too tight and your knuckles go white, you also lose sensation. Then when you go to try and open that up, it's like a screaming feeling that happens in it all. And you have to leave it open and not move it and be with it until all the blood runs back, and then you eventually keep going from there. That's what I had to do. Now, that's a really hard way to do it. Another way to do it is to, like if we're using this example, is you just go and soak it in some water, and it starts to relax it and open it up further. So I want you to imagine that if you're coming to say a one-on-one session with someone who's able to be with those experiences and the tension that comes up with that, that's like being in the hand in the hot water. Because now they're able to hold a space of no meaning, and to allow all this meaning that you have to come up, and then you unpack that meaning together. And they use their nervous system to co-regulate. Because even when it's across digitally, there's something about the nervous system that it still allows it. So we might be in a conversation and you've got something that comes up, my nervous system will be able to feel it to a degree too. All the tension and everything that's going on with it. So we start unpacking the meaning that you're going through, and as we're doing that, I'm feeling through all these edges that are with it and asking curious questions, which then opens your awareness a little bit further and a little bit further, and then you start to see things that you hadn't seen before and that now you can't unsee. So now your system starts to relax because it can account for something else. And this is what gives context, and it also starts to give contrast, because now you got, these things aren't the same. Therefore, I don't have to feel this way when I'm over here. And this is how the perception system starts to heal.
So it's not about the excited feeling that my parents are getting mad. It's the don't run in the street that they are making a noise about. Kind of like being able to distinguish that, but on a foundational level. Because what I'm hearing is especially, and this is my background too, is somatic work as well, but when it's a foundational piece like that, the whole building is a half an inch off, and therefore none of the lines are plumb. And that's going to cause the structure to be not as solid or as sturdy, and you can't go as tall with it, in my understanding. I'm going to stay out of that because it's not my area of expertise, but that's the end of the analogy there. But I do think it is really important to be able to see it from that lens, because when it is one of those like foundation blocks, that's usually where we're actually noticing the problem is. We're up here in the top floor wondering why it feels so wobbly up here, trying to build these things, when really it's a foundational issue that we need to go back and look at and open up some space to say, maybe we can shift that a little bit, and then everything else starts to fall in line.
Yeah, well, this perception-based system is position-based in its own way. Because how it does these shortcuts is in the labels that are applied. That's what these meanings get associated with. So there's the distinctions behind the meaning and the labels, and then there's the application of those labels. I am, she is, they are, that is. This is how it all starts to become that shortcut. So this is where the notion of identity starts to come into play, because now we're having meanings of who I am, and who I am is also in relation to who they are. That all of a sudden certain sensations come up around different people that now I'm being triggered from I don't know what, but it's because of this positionality thing. So as we start to unpack the nuances in those meanings, you actually start to reposition yourself. And those words are known as dyadic words. So they're words that their meaning changes depending on the positionality. So for instance, I am, or when you say it, means something different than when I says it. But it's still the same word and still has the general same meaning, as in you get it. So our perceptions are based on space and positionality. And as I was saying with the car analogy, where it's like, okay, now we've got a reference point that I'm watching this space through. Well, that's a reference point that has things make sense. The same thing, like this is a really advanced example, but the same thing happened in astrology. If you have a look at, they used to believe that the Earth was the center of the universe. They were mapping the moving of the planets based on that reference point. When they eventually they attributed it to Copernicus, but when it came about that the sun was the center of the solar system, then there's a different type of remapping, because now you're accounting for something else that makes it all make sense. You get to perceive the space in a very different way. So there wasn't really a term for this, so I coined one called, which takes in the same thing as dyadic, which is a juxtaposition. It is a position that all meaning is based from, so a reference point. In photography, they call it like the focal point, but it's a point that things make sense from. So when we're having these triggering things, it's because we've misappropriated some sort of position of meaning. And the most fundamental one that you're talking about, along the lines of I am bad, I am wrong, I'm not enough. All of these all start to get anchored in through certain sensations, and then we build all other meaning on top of that. So now when something comes along that proves to us, based on past experiences of I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm not enough, then all these visceral senses start to fire, and something's wrong. So this is where this deeper somatic work really works, is being able to be with someone who doesn't see you as bad, doesn't see you as wrong, just rather you're going through a situation, and being help you to unpack all the different meanings that are showing up, so that you can drop into that there's nothing wrong with you, that you're not bad, nor are you wrong. Like what you have, what we do in a certain situation might not be appropriate, but what's appropriate is contextual. And here's an analogy I've used before. Is it okay to punch someone in the face?
No.
It's not a good idea. Like if you're trying to make friends with someone, it's not a good idea to punch them in the face. Now, if someone's broken into your house and coming at you with a knife, go for it. Go nuts. But also with that friend thing, if you're in a boxing ring and you're sparring, your friend's going to be like, yep, that's on me. Point to you. So what's right and what's wrong is contextual. And being able to come back to that type of space allows for us to be in the visceral system, to allow more sensations to come through, and then to allow, with cognitive awareness, to really get at what are the nuances in those feelings, to be able to understand what it really means, so that we have the difference between outlook and position.
I'm so glad that you circled back to that, because I think that is the really difficult piece, is when the experience that you're having doesn't have the correct word or label associated with it. What ends up happening, if we fast forward the house being built on the I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm not enough, is that we actually are assigning the wrong meaning to everything, and we don't trust ourselves. So a lot of times people will come to my work, and one of the things that I hear on repeat is like, I want to be able to just trust myself. I want to go for the thing. I want to listen to my gut instinct and talk to her, or move away from this situation, or get out of this business deal, because they are getting this like perception that they are picking up on, and they're making it mean something that it may not mean. It may be entirely askew just based on the fact that they are built on this like shifted foundation. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
And what's even worse is if your position's off and her position's off, but they're in off in a way that has mutual disadvantage. So the meaning that you're making is matches the meaning that she's making in the inverse. So now you two are at it with each other, and this is where trauma bonding comes.
Yeah. I always say it's like this trigger, counter trigger. I'm triggered by the fact that you're triggered, and you're now triggered by the fact that I'm triggered, and we're in this like not fun dance. Yeah. Yeah.
So we got misfires and misinterpretations going left, right, and center.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that as we start to, it's known, most people call it healing, but as we're able to dissolve these shortcuts, these conceptual understandings, this meaning, and come back and redo it into a deeper picture for ourselves, when somebody else is being triggered within that, we then see them with compassion. We're like, oh, okay. There's a whole nother side of it that I hadn't even seen before, and curiosity starts to come in. And now our visceral system is both an input and an output. So now we're putting out this presence of a calming one, an understanding one, and it's initially going to be what's known as a pattern interrupt for them, because you're not playing into the stories that are associated with these meanings. And it's going to have them stop being with that and actually be more in that visceral system for themselves too.
Yeah, I love that. I always hear people say, and I always know that there is a certain transition that a man will make in our time working together, where he'll say something of like, and then this happened where I would never have experienced this before. like I wouldn't have seen this before, or it worked. Those are some of the things, like I tried this thing, or I showed up differently. Either they showed up differently and it worked. They were able to see broader than what they had previously been working with. Or they saw themselves show up differently in a way that they never have before, because that's usually been off limits in a trigger. Their body's been like reacting so they don't show up that way. And so for that trigger to now dissolve and they show up in this more full context of themselves and almost like surprise themselves. That's like one of my favorite experiences to hear when people have this.
So you're talking about if they've had the visceral and the cognitive way off, where you've got the skew, all of a sudden it's all started to come back in. And when I say way off, it's like down here type of thing where you can barely have it.
Yeah.
And then bringing it back where they're like, oh, now I get this. And as soon as they start to work on those impulses and the impressions they're getting through, life is starting to respond in a favorable way. And they're like, oh, okay, this is what was meant by that. Oh, I like this.
Yeah, this is fun. And they get to just trust themselves more, because it's coming back into line with not only the internal experience they're having, but that they now know how to work with it, which puts them in charge. I love. That's something I really enjoy helping people with.
Anything to add?
Yeah, was there anything else that you had in terms of presence, holding space, anything else that as you were learning this process that was that would be helpful for people to know?
All right, so a couple of points. And I think the main one is, you talk about this a lot, I talk about it a lot, nuance. Nuance is what matters. So what I've got down in my notes is distinctions, constellations, and somatics help dissolve distorted imprints and create aligned ones. So all of it is somatics, because it is the removing of these meanings, these concepts, these positions that we've imprinted into the visceral sides as this cognitive shortcut. So it's all somatic work, but distinctions and constellations are what are used as the tools to help facilitate somatic work, in addition to deeper visceral feeling based somatic work as well. So that's one of the key pieces within that.
Which all three of those elements we've baked into all of the conversations within the Rebrand, because those three pieces are the answer to the question of like, how do you do somatic work? What is somatic work? And it's usually one of those three elements, and we're breaking down exactly how to do them, because we are not only modeling when to use these tools, but also holding that space or creating a space of presence where it gets to just be a neutral kind of blank canvas where we can go in and either write a new story or play out the story and really get the information that you were needing so that that can be reconnected to your body.
I think one of the biggest starting points is awareness. Awareness of a side of life that you hadn't realized was there. So this becomes a new type of nuance that your system, once you start to become aware of it, now you can operate with it and get some understanding with it to work out how to calibrate with it. So think of it as we've got spaces layered together, so cognitive spaces. And now when we add in another cognitive space, it can help bring clarity to something that was missing before. So then it goes from almost being like two-dimensional to three-dimensional. You're like, oh, wow, where did that come from? So the first piece is awareness. After that, it's the tuning into the subtleties and the nuances of that new awareness in order to understand how to navigate and maneuver with it, how to reposition our perception so that it all starts to become this enlivened space that goes beyond 3 dimensions into what people talk about as almost like a 4-dimensional experience. But all it, for me, is the same sort of things of what you're doing when you're driving a car. So it's a enhanced perceptive understanding of it. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because we've actually had a bit of feedback around a lot of the conversation language we're using right now. People are loving it, but they're not quite getting it. There's something missing. And what we've found is that for the men that have done rooted first, this type of conversation becomes a lot easier. And we found this so much so that we've now made rooted a prerequisite for the rebrand. And once you've gone through rooted and had some awarenesses here, this is when we can delve deeper into all these different meanings and the dynamics that are into play with it to bring around such an embodied experience of presence that I would say that you grok it. So grok is it's a word that comes from the book Stranger in a Strange Land, which is a fictional book. It's supposed to be a Martian word, but it means to understand something so much so that it becomes a part of who you are. So for instance, you understand driving so much so that you are a driver. You don't just drive, you are a driver.
Ooh, yeah.
So you now know how to experience driving and how to operate within the space of driving and navigate it.
Like wondering, is there an identity shift that happens when a man embodies and groks presence?
Yes.
What is it?
It's not full confidence, because confidence comes with a few others, and we've been mapping out the equation, the formula for confidence from this whole visceral cognitive sides of things and the spatial and sensory sides of it all. We're calling this perception-based. So confidence has 3 layers to it, and we'll bring that in another video. But as we're starting to get presence, there's an aliveness that happens within us that we start to lose an identity, is probably a better way to put it. And it's the identity of there's something wrong with me.
Okay.
And therefore the identity becomes there's nothing wrong with me.
Okay.
But it's not a overly thought out thing, but rather it's a landing in us as a being.
Yeah, like nothing's wrong. I'm okay. I'm good.
Yeah, it's not even in question.
Yeah.
It's just there's a situation that's happening, and what do I need to do in the situation?
I love that, because we've also talked about this before, of like the appropriate response to the situation. You do what's necessary based on the situation, and for a lot of, I'm going to say synthesizer men, that is something that they are embodying, but are very qualified to make those kind of judgment calls. You guys are kind of like wired for seeing what needs to be done and taking action.
Oh yeah, because we can hold multiple contexts in our mind at the same time. There's a lot of capacity for many different contexts, and that causes a level of cognitive tension, which then comes across as emotional tension because of the link between the cognitive and visceral sides of things. And this is where others may not be able to sit with that tension if we're trying to process and feel through something. And what's even worse is when we're having these misfires and interpretations coming for us that are throwing it into the mix, and then we're skewing what we're trying to feel through.
Yeah, it's like the jumpy passenger causing you to...
Well, when we're driving and we are the jumpy passenger. And we're trying to keep an eye on the road, and we're bouncing around in the seat when the car's not even doing that.
Okay. I love hearing the internal experience. I think that's so helpful for people to hear what it feels like to be not only a synthesizer, but also a man, a masculine synthesizer, because it is very different than the outlook that I would have of you. Even just to have that distinction of, I can create an outlook of, this is what it appears he's doing, this is how it feels, this is how I know it's happening because it's in line. That can be really helpful in helping you kind of like find where that middle point is. But I love that you are able to express it from the inside, kind of what the experience is like. Thank you. Yeah.
And we started the video by saying like how I get agitated around this whole, this is what present men do. I don't have a problem with that as long as when they share it, it's this is what I've experienced about a present man. But usually what's done is that this present man's spoken about in almost like they're an object.
Godlike characteristics.
It comes across that way because of the objectification.
Yeah.
And therefore now, as we said, I'm trying to mimic that. Whereas once I have an internal experience, I can just go to that every time. And then when my whole system learns that, this just needs to be default, it then drops and we have that grok feeling where it's like, now I get traffic.
Got it. I love that. Is there anything else that would be helpful? Again, any of your notes that you wanted to share on this? I'm going to have you come back and talk about the phases of embodying confidence, because I think that's going to be a really juicy...
the confidence formula.
The formula for confidence. I think that's going to be a really great video in its entirety to itself. So we'll save that one for another day. But is there anything else that you wanted to share?
All I would say is, if you're finding something useful in this, then lean further in, because there's a reason why this is landing for you. And it's the same sort of thing that I eventually had to do for myself. The longer I waited, the more I had to stay in my pain. And if a lot of what I'm saying is dropping and making sense, and you get it and you just want to delve into it, we will make exceptions around the new rule of going into Rebrand by having to go through Rooted. However, if you're like, there's something here and I really want to get at it, jump on, get Rooted. The course. And
the course.
Start to get some or more of these awarenesses, because we can tie more sophisticated meaning together when you're able to perceive certain things. Until you're able to perceive them, then it's hard to tie this more sophisticated meaning together in a way that you can perceive. Because if you don't perceive the dynamic and the field and the different elements within it, we can't then help you coordinate what this thing means. It's back to the whole just fold in the cheese. It's there, fold it in.
Yeah. Which is a frustrating experience.
It is. It really is.
We don't want to create that for you.
So that's why Rooted exists. Go and get some awareness and open yourself up to new realms. And then from there, this is where we can get more sophisticated, because the notion of presence and the notion of confidence is a sophisticated thing, in the sense that it's a bunch of different sensations working together to create an experience that's a unified experience between cognition and visceralness. And doing that in a level that you've embodied it, that you don't even think about it anymore. You're just that. You just show up that way. So the levels to go through that is... we're doing full perception system and nervous system recalibration in order to get you there.
I love that you say that, because it is a sophisticated set of skills, and it's often that the clients who come to this work, especially after they've gone through the Rooted course, they have a fair amount of knowledge or skills. They usually have read all the books, watched all the YouTube videos. They've done a lot of the easy access points, and what they're actually needing as that next step is that grokking piece, that click in place, where it starts to solidify with their own usability of it, their own way of engaging those skills. Otherwise, it's just a box of tools that you don't know necessarily when or how to use. It's a great collection of tools, but if you're not going to be a craftsman with them, then is it really necessary to have? And it doesn't mean that those were a waste, but a lot of times it does point at the fact that you keep engaging and getting these tools and skills because there's something that's important to you in it. There's a deeper thread for you, and a lot of times it is showing up as, I want a relationship, I want a partner, I want to continue this process of expanding myself. And one of the best ways to do that is actually to sink into the somatic piece, because then more information comes online so that you can start applying all of these skills to every area of your life.
Yeah, because once we dissolve these distortions in our perception, then we can actually perceive more fully. And what becomes available is these other realms that we've been preventing ourselves from seeing purely because there's distortions there. And through the misappropriation, as in mislabeling, mismeaning making, or incorrect meaning making, that we're applying to certain sensations and what's the other word, signals that we have coming through. We're now not available to the nuances within those that could be trying to show us something.
Yeah. So if this was helpful for you, again, thank you for being willing to go deeper into this one. If this was helpful for you, what are the ways that they could take this information and run with it?
Oh, couple. Put in the comments what new insight you got from this and how it impacted you. That's one. The second is have a conversation with somebody else about this. If you need to, give them this video and get them to watch through it as well. And maybe even some of the other ones that we've said that have meant something to you. So now you've got somebody else to talk to so that you can work through this yourself even further. The third one is get those extra bits of awareness. So jump on, grab Rooted as a course and go through that, or jump on and have a discovery call with us so that we can find out where you are within what's going on for you and help advise what's a path you can take to delve deeper into this practice. Because we have to remember that this is a practice that we're taking in order to go deeper and deeper into our own realms of perception and being more okay with our own nervous systems and our own experiences, because then we get to have much
richer,
deeper and richer experiences. I was trying to put the two words together, it didn't work.
Deeper and richer experiences. I love that. And this is within the context of either emotional intimacy in your relationship that you're after, or just in a life that is
worth sharing,
that is fun for you and that makes you feel the most alive version of yourself.
Yep. That's all for me.
That's it. Me too. All right. Well, if you guys enjoyed this, let us know. Like I said, we'd love to hear from you. And as always, we hope this was helpful, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.
Bye.